Hi guys, Aceface back with another video for you, and this is the next part in the Road to Las Vegas Open 2016, sponsored by Wargames. And again, you can probably see where I am. This is actually the final part of my road trip. Whether this goes out earlier, it might well do, but I just want to let you know, guys, at this stage I've done about 700-800 miles this week, so I'm feeling tired and I'm putting the excuses in early why I'm going to have a tough game. But yeah, so I'm very fortunate to be with the legend that is Mr. Idigbeer. Say hello, guys. And obviously we have quite a few grudge matches, so this is going to be another one of those. I'm really scared because Nick already has a very good idea of what my list was before coming. He insists he hasn't list tailored. I do actually believe him, but I'm still feeling very scared because, as I've said in previous videos, Nick is an extremely good player and very good tactically, so he's definitely going to give me a tough game. So obviously we are playing ITC missions, as I have been all this week and for the last few bat reps, but we'll go over the missions and deployment in a minute. I'm going to start off with going over my list. So as you would have seen in one of the recent videos, I am fielding, I'm pretty set on this list now. This is list 1.2. and this is the modified drone list that I'm kind of pretty set on. So I'll go through the list. So my HQ is the Ethereal. I'll kind of whiz around and so you can see him. So he is leading this army, is my Ethereal. He has 4 units of strike team fire warriors, so all units of 5. We then have in the fast support 2 Wyvaras, of course, with their stimulant injectors. Still just really, in the end of the day, I just couldn't drop one. That was what it came down to more than anything. As I said, both stimulant injectors, and then we have the 2 big guys in the Lord of War slot. And still not 100% set on the weaponry, just as I started to enjoy the D variant, but we have gone for, with the extra points that I've made the saving, we've got the 2 strength 10 driver cannons. They both got flamers, a little bit of proxy going on at the moment, as I said, just still need to just put the final little finishing touches in, but they've both got the flamers, they both have interceptor, they both have the 4-up in Von. And then, of course, last but not least, I have the drones formation, which is 4 units of marker drones. And that is my 1850 points of competition Tau. And now we'll go over and have a look at what I'm up against. Right guys, I kind of thought this would be the case. I do fear the Necrons, and that is exactly what Nick's brought out. But we've got a very different list. A lot of very competitive units in here, so it should be interesting, and I'll get Nick to go over the list.
Okay, so I'm using the Decorium. I have the Reclamation Legion, starting off on the left there with 2 squads of 10 warriors, 5 Immortals with the Gauze Blaster, and we have an Overlord with a War Sigh, and 3 Tomb Blades. They've got Looms and Veins today. Then I've got 2 auxiliary units, 5 Death Marks, and then the pariahs that you see there are standing in as Light Guard, the sword and board variety. We then have a Royal Court formation. We've got another Overlord with a War Sigh. We have a Cryptic with a Solar Staff, and then we have Varguard. And then bolted onto that I have a Destroyer Cult formation. We have 3 Heavy Destroyers, 3 groups of Destroyers with 3 in each, and then we have a Destroyer Lord, and he has the Void Reaper. And that is my 1850 point list.
Very scary stuff. Destroyer particularly, I don't like Destroyers. They've caused me an awful lot of trouble in the past, and obviously, as we know, generally Necrons are particularly hard to put down. Not played too many Royal Cults, so that would be interesting. But yeah, quite frightened about this, I'm not going to lie. So we'll go back in a minute and go over the mission and the deployment and get this game going. Okay guys, so deployment is done. We are playing ITC Mission 2, which is the Relic Primary and Modified Maelstrom Secondary. So this is deployment. As it stands, I am going first, and I've deployed the 2 Storm Surges just within those ruins, but pretty much as far forward as I can get them. The 2 White Eyes are in their standard position, as aggressive as pretty much can be, with 1 baiting little Fire Warriors unit there, and then majority of the units are within these ruins. So we have the Warlord Ethereal just there. With his unit of Fire Warriors that he's in. Got another unit of Fire Warriors up here, another unit of Fire Warriors down there, and obviously 1 down there that we've already mentioned. My objective, my Maelstrom objective is here, and then obviously, as I said, we've got the big Storm Surges. We'll just have a look then. We've got the drones, so we've got 3 units of drones that are around the same area. So we've got 1, 2, and then there's my 3rd, yeah, so 3 there, 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th one is over on that far side over there. So that is my deployment, fairly aggressive, but making sure that we hold a good ground presence over here. As I said, hopefully that's what these guys will add to the list. We go over and have a little look at Nick's deployment. Very cagey deployment from Nick. He's feeling quite worried. He's feeling quite scared over there.
Oh, very
scared. It is worth mentioning that obviously because of the because I have the Lord of War, he will season off 5 up. So that's going to help him quite a bit. And let's have a little look at deployment. So his Royal Court and the Lich Guard are hiding behind this massive great big tomb. It's about the only place that they can really avoid line of sight. It's going to be quite hard for me to see, if anything, of them. We've got the destroyers, one unit of destroyers here, and then the 2 sort of again just hugging some a bit of blocking line of sight, bit of cover over there. We've got the units spread along the front, just sort of fairly aggressive, just making sure that you can try and get some shots off first turn if possible. And then you have obviously the little Tomb Blades over the far side, hugging that flank as they quite often do. So generally a fairly aggressive deployment from Nick. He's said very cagey, but he's very confident that he's going to make this siege, and he probably needs to, because there's going to be an awful lot of aggressive firepower with against a lot of his army if he doesn't make it. The other thing just to bear in mind, the Death Marks as well as the Destroyer Lord are in reserve. I've seen that happen to me before, and that hurts a lot, so I'm not looking forward to when they make an appearance. But as I said, so at the moment I am going first. I am going to ask Nick whether he wants to seize the initiative. Nick, do you want to seize the initiative?
I think I will have a go, yeah.
So he's going to have a go.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to do it.
If I don't seize, we might be setting up playing again. Right, here we go.
Here we go.
Oh no, oh dear.
We have a 3. So we will go in now to a brutal, I hope, fingers crossed, a brutal turn 1 for the Tau. Okay, so end of turn 1 for Tau. I needed to destroy a unit for my Maelstrom objective and also have a unit partially within the enemy deployment zone. So movement, I adjusted the bubble over there, kind of brought them forward a little bit to try and see if potentially I could get some better positions. The fire warriors in the middle kind of hugged the cover but kind of shuffled forward a little bit. The white-eyes, as expected, jumped forward. This one jumped sort of as close to the destroyer as it could get, and this one jumped up towards the tomb blades. As far as nova charges, I failed one nova charge but successfully made my feel no pain. The shooting phase happened. The marker drones split their fire. So basically, this unit markered up the tomb blades. The furthest back unit of marker drones there went into the warriors in the middle, and then the rest of the marker lights went on to the destroyers. Then the white-eyed over here started off with opening up on the tomb blades, finishing them off, using the marker lights to ignore as cover, and then wrecking them. Over this side, the white-eyed targeted the destroyers, and he flamed and then put his shooting into them, and took out one of them. The other two stayed firm. Then majority of the rest of the shooting from the big guys was pretty ineffective. So the strength 10 did do some work. So bounce it over here on the top of the destroyers. The unit that's now 2, we took out 1, and some of the warriors, 2 of the warriors went down, but other than that, not a lot of damage. Quite a wild scatter for the second one. And then the multi-missiles all went into the destroyers, didn't do any damage at all, and also the smart missiles didn't do any work. I used 2 marker lights to make a couple of destroyer missiles, put them into the 2 destroyers, and I rolled 2 3s so they didn't hit. After that, the destroyers decided they'd had enough and head for the hills, so they have run all the way back into this far corner, and Nick rolled a double 6, so very unlucky there. But he did call it, said he always fails his rolls. So that was that. Then in the assault move, this white-eye got just enough distance to get within Nick's deployment zone. So if I can hold out there, I can potentially take that objective, which is clearly going to be a target. So we'll see how he gets on. And then the other white-eye, who again got a really poor roll, jumped back a little bit into this corner, just to try and mitigate any wild charges. So we'll see what happens there. So generally pretty solid turn. Could have done more damage, but then I'm quite used to putting a lot of fire into Necrons and them just not going down. So we'll see what we can do. Nick now has to also destroy a unit, and he has to take his own objective that he's currently sitting on at the moment. So he potentially will take 2 Maelstrom points out of this first turn as well. We're on first strike as well in this mission, so we both get a first blood point. I've got mine, so that will be another target for Nick going forward into this turn. So very interesting, very cat and mouse. We'll see what the Necrons can do now in return as we go into Necron turn 2. Okay, so end of Necron's turn 1. I think I got quite lucky, or Nick got very unlucky, one way or the two. So the main objective for his turn was to kill something, and particularly kill this white-eyed that would clear me off a objective and also give him 2 objectives that he needs. So that was obviously going to be the main target. So movement phase, the big sort of Death Star Royal Court did their big teleport, and he landed it bang on where he wanted to, right by that relic, which I must admit I'm quite concerned. I'm not really too sure how to deal with these guys. They have popped the solar staff, so otherwise I'd have no problems, but I'm going to struggle with doing anything to them this turn. Both the Storm Surges have their heals up, so I'm concerned about that. I don't know what to do, just ignore them for a turn potentially. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously they are on the relic. So then from the rest of the shooting point of view, everything else, well, as I said, these guys had some shooting on the White-Eyed, didn't do anything. The rest, the Destroyers and the Warriors, all shot at my White-Eyed over there. Can't remember which ones it was, but eventually 2 wounds were taken off just between these Destroyers and the Warriors. Took 2 wounds off. The big fluff, and when it got extremely unlucky, was the Heavy Destroyers over here. Shot their Heavy Destroyer guns into this guy, and Nick had all he needed to do was not roll 2s, and he rolled 3 2s. So not the greatest there, because he had preferred enemy, and obviously yeah, so that didn't go well. Last gasp attempt to try and get that point. The Warriors charged in against the White-Eyed. I took 1 off in Overwatch, and then in combat I won and killed a further 1 Necron. He didn't do anything in return. I did win the combat. He failed leadership. They did run, but I failed to catch him, which was a shame. They are also blinded, which helped me, because they took a wound from my gun. So that was it, more or less. So as far as objectives, Nick did hold his objective that he's sitting on down there, but he didn't manage to get first strike, and he didn't manage to kill a unit. So I lead the first turn on 2 Maelstrom points to 1, and I got my bonus point of first strike. So interesting. The big thing now is, what do I do with this as we go into Tau turn 2? Okay, so end of turn 2 for Tau. Obviously the big guys were planted, so they didn't go anywhere. My objectives I drew was kill a unit, and also try and get onto Nick's objective, which obviously is way back here, which I was not likely to do, didn't have the range. The 2 White-Eyes were not on their jump move this turn. So movement wise, obviously these guys, as I said, were stuck, they couldn't do anything. Most of this pretty much stayed where it was. These guys shuffled a little bit this way, and then the Fire Warriors that were behind the obelisk moved out to make a bit of a conga line. You can probably see where this is going. The White-Eyed over the far side just adjusted to make sure he was in a good position to flame and put some damage into those Warriors that were running away. And this White-Eyed moved up to be in range of the Warrior unit that was by that smaller obelisk. So shooting phase, the drones elected not to target the unit. I thought it was a bit of a waste of time, and they targeted the Warriors, and they also targeted the Destroyers, and this unit over here targeted that unit of Warriors. So I've got three marker lights on that unit, and then got 1 on the Destroyer and 3 on this unit, so not too bad. Shooting phase, the Wyvara pretty much cleaned up majority of this unit. He left 2. It then took basically a whole half of a Storm Surge to try and clean up this guy. And bearing in mind they're in double tap range, so I put 86 shots into basically 2 guys. In fact, by that stage it was only 1 guy. And Nick only had 2 saves left. He managed to make every single save apart from 2 saves. He almost survived. If he made that, I'd already elected the rest of my shooting. The only thing I had was large blasts, strength 10s, to go on 1 single guy. So yeah, it was very, very, very good rolling by Nick, because he managed to save a lot of shooting from other things by taking it on that unit of Warriors. Eventually the strength 10s did go on the Destroyers, and I got quite lucky, to be fair. Some actually good scattering went onto the Destroyers, and I managed to kill 1 of the Destroyer units, which was quite beneficial. The White-Eyed did pretty well, used his marker lights to boost ballistic skill and to also take away their cover, took away a big pile of those Warriors, which was helpful. And other than that, that was about it. We went into the assault phase. The White-Eyed failed his assault on the Warriors, but the assaults on all the drones have used them as a bit of a wall. So Nick will have to get rid of some drones to try and attack the Storm Surges if that's his plan, and potentially have to sacrifice some of his assault if he needs to split off some of his Death Star. So it's going to be interesting. I'm quite pleased how that went. They got the right moves that they need, and I obviously scored 1 of my objectives. So I think a solid turn for Tau. So far so good. but we do have the horrible unit of Death Marks to come in, and that may well put pain to my task as we go into Necron turn 2. Okay, so end of turn 2 for the Necrons. Interesting turn. So Nick needed to have one of his units within my deployment zone, and he needed to hold the objective that he is already sitting on down here. So obviously that was going to be scored 1 straight away. As far as movement phase, there was quite a lot of umming and ahhing. The Death Marks did come in, jumped down there, and marked up the White-Eyed as their target. I forgot to intercept, which is a bit of a kick in the pants, because especially seeing I'm not going to be able to do a lot with my big guys this turn. So that was a mistake on my behalf, but hopefully I'll get away with it through Nick's bad rolling that was this turn. So all the destroyers kind of shimmied around to get themselves in positions to make sure that they could kind of maximise their opportunities this turn. The warriors kind of moved down. Now they're not running anymore. So then in the shooting phase, the Death Marks shot into the White-Eyed, and I took a wound, so not too bad there. The destroyers over here shot into there. There's them that shot into my drones, wasn't it?
Shot into the drones.
Yeah, so they shot into my drones to clear a pathway, which went well for Nick. I failed all my saves, so that was that. In fact, what I do need to do, and I'll do that now, is I need to take a leadership test on that unit of drones. So I'll take a leadership test on them drones, and they will be running, what we'll do in a minute, and they are running, let's have a look. They are running a long way, but we'll come back and do that in a minute. But anyway, so they're running away, and then as far as the rest of it, everything else pretty much shot at. We had some shots coming on this White-Eyed, which I got extremely lucky with my save. My Feel No Pains did particularly well there, and I'm still hanging in there just on 1 wound. And then more or less it was the assault phase. The hole had been cleared, so in came the Lich Star, and Nick rolled an absolute stinker. He really did. Should have caused a lot more damage statistically on these guys, but took just 1 wound off the Storm Surge. Hit back, didn't do anything. I couldn't stomp because the heals were down, but he has now managed to tie up my hardest hitting unit for at least a turn, if not longer. So quite interesting, and obviously did score his point by sitting on that objective. So it's all to play for. I still think it's just about swinging for Tau. The fact that Nick didn't manage to take out one of the White-Eyed puts me in a very good position to do some serious damage this turn, but still all to play for as we go into Tau turn 3. Right guys, so end of Tau turn 3, and pretty devastating. I've managed to hammer home the advantage of the 2 White-Eyeds still being alive, which I think I was very lucky last turn, as well as the Storm Surge being a lot healthier than potentially he should have. So movement wise, pretty much most things stay where they are. The Pathfinders, I'm forgetting their names now. The Fire Warriors moved up closer to make sure they could claim the relic. The other ones kind of pulled into this corner to make sure that I can take the Table Quarter at the end of the game, because that's one of the bonus objectives. The drones continue to flee, even with the Ethereal close by. They're still on their way off the board at the moment. And then over here, the 2 White-Eyeds both didn't Nova-Charge, as they were both obviously quite heavily hurt. The one over the far side jumped over to try and engage the very powerful heavy destroyers, and the other one went after the 2 destroyers that were left there, as well as the warrior unit. So shooting phase happened, and the drones concentrated mainly on this destroyer unit from the ones over the far side, and then the drones that are around here aimed at the heavy destroyers. Put 3 on each, which then helped with the ballistic skill for the Wyvaras. So very little else shooting. The fire warriors shot at these guys. I managed to take 1 of them away, which was a bonus. And then after that, the 2 white-eyeds, they used the flamer, and because it's a torrent flamer, I managed to take out most of the warrior squad that was there, just down to 1, but they did not flee. And I think I took 1 wound potentially off the destroyers. Over here was a similar story, just managing to take a wound off the destroyers. Both were blinded, which was going to help me then coming up. So then they both charged their respective units. The real thing that Nick was trying to call, he was trying to get me scared, and it did, to be fair. Particularly the white-eyed here that's just on 1 wound left. Nick called it that he was going to overwatch him to death. Didn't get so lucky on that one. But I had my heart in my mouth when he rolled 2 6s on the heavy destroyers. Thankfully, I managed to get one of my feel no pains. So he only took 1 wound, so he's down to 1 wound as well. So both white eyes heavily damaged on 1 wound each, but in combat they both did pretty well. They took wounds and they held up the Necrons, which was the main thing, which is always my tactic this time in the game. If the white-eyeds can lock onto non-combat units, they can actually be a real irritation because they're quite hard to hurt. And then that stops things shooting at them. So that's what I've done, held them 2 units up. But the big story of this turn, unfortunately for Nick, I'm actually feeling pretty bad, and that doesn't happen often, to be fair, because I am a bit cutthroat, as you probably know. But actually, even I kind of felt a little bit bad about this one. So the Lich Star started off with hitting the Storm Surges. Actually did pretty well, particularly as it wasn't their charging turn. Took another 3 wounds off the lead Storm Surge. But then the Storm Surge hit back, took 1 with the smash attack. Nick failed his invuln and failed his reanimation. Then I stomped, and unfortunately the stomp, I rolled 2 6s and cleared the whole unit. In fact, I didn't clear the whole unit. I left 1 or 2, and then I overran them. So yeah, pretty brutal. So that whole 700 point unit went in that 1 combat. Yes, Storm Surge pretty heavily damaged, but that's a good return in points, and that is pretty much game over. Nick is insistent that he is going to continue, and he is going to kill a Storm Surge. Yes, you've heard it here first. The Storm Surge is going down. We'll see about that, and we'll also see whether the 2 annoying white-eyeds can also get seen off. As far as Maelstrom points that turn, I scored both mine, kill a unit, and hold my own objective down over here, by being close enough to it. Nick didn't score any Maelstrom points, but did get an additional point for taking 3 wounds off the Storm Surge. So he's trading a little bit at the moment, and I now have locked onto the Relic. He hasn't got many units to chase after it, but you know, still all to play for. I know he's not going to let it go, and there's still a lot that can be done as we go into Necron turn 3. Okay, so end of turn 3 for the Necrons. Not bad turn. Necrons on a mission to try and take something out of this game. So obviously the 2 destroyers were locked up. The Deathmark separated from the Destroyer Lord. The warrior is craftily hiding over behind that little wreckage of a tomb over there. He's going to be the saviour. And more or less that was pretty much it as far as movement. The destroyers that have been that ran earlier are trying to get back in the game, so they kind of did their move and they ran and jumped just to try and get into some sort of contention. So as far as shooting wise, I'm trying to think if any shooting happened at all. Yeah, so Deathmarks shot at the big guy. Didn't do any damage, and then after that the charges came. So the Destroyer Lord charged in to the big guy, and then obviously the 2 attacks carried on with the 2 Wyvaras. So noticeably in this combat, the Destroyer Lord did take a further wound off the Storm Surge, but he did quite a lot of wounds, and I really did roll hot again. I'm rolling particularly well this game, which is making a big difference. I think otherwise I potentially could have lost a lot more at this stage. Over with the Wyvaras, nothing really happened. I did take I killed one off in this combat over here, but Nick passed his leadership, and then nothing happened in that combat. But I did roll 2 2s for both of my hit and runs. Again, can't do anything wrong at the moment, and both the Wyvaras have jetpacked, if you like, in good positions, ready to cause more trouble in my turn, which is about perfect for me, because now they can really start to hit home. Obviously the Storm Surges are both locked up again, which is a bit of a pain because it's going to restrict my shooting somewhat, but we've still got Wyvaras that can cause trouble as we go into turn 4 for Tau. Okay, so end of turn 4 for Tau, not such a strong turn, so movement wise most things stayed where they were. The Fire Warriors picked up the relic, the 2 White-Eyed went hunting for their respective targets. This one went after both the Warrior and the Destroyers West. The other Y went round the back to try and deal with the Immortals on the objective that I needed to try and get. Shooting phase, the Markalites came in on the Death Marks, as well as I think we got one on the Destroyer. Fire Warriors unloaded into Death Marks, didn't do anything, but then these Fire Warriors also shot in, did manage to take one off. The White-Eyed, this White-Eyed took out majority of the squad around there, leaving just the one, but I couldn't see him at the time and he didn't run away. The White-Eyed over here, I couldn't manage to take out the single warrior. He stayed firm with his RP roll, did manage to take out a destroyer, and then went into the assault phase. So it failed my charge over there, which was disastrous. So he could be in trouble with just one wound left. And then this White-Eyed, he just used his assault move, because he obviously couldn't charge the guy because you couldn't see him, so he used his assault move to kind of move round to this side of the board. And that was more or less it, apart from most noticeable overall, Nick got his man. Hey. He went hunting for that Storm Surge, and he did take him out. I did hit back, I took another wound off him, didn't roll particularly hot on my stomps. He is just on one wound left. He did follow on a wound as well onto this Storm Surge, who has now lost a wound as well. So he did what he wanted to do, and he is still engaged with that Storm Surge. Yeah, good turn for Necrons really, to be fair. But we'll see what happens now as we go on to Necron turn 4. Okay, so end of turn 4 for Necrons. Not a bad turn, to be fair. Again, I got extremely lucky with these guys. The big guys are still on the board, which pretty much tells you what you need to know. So Destroyers, majority focusing on White-Eyed, kind of chasing them around. This one here, again showing some, making sure that he's kind of focusing also on that relic. And the Death Marks sort of staying put again with these Destroyers coming up, getting into a good position to be able to shoot at what they need to, as well as the Heavy Destroyers. So probably the biggest story of this one was the Heavy Destroyers shooting at the White-Eyed, and again me managing to make that crucial feel no pain save to keep him in the game. Absolutely huge. No other damage done to everything else landing on him, but making saves confidently. The Fire Warriors did lose 3 to shooting from the Death Marks, but I passed my leadership test, so they're still holding that objective with their objective secure, even though the Destroyer is bearing down on them. The White-Eyed didn't take any damage from shooting from Destroyers, so yeah, he's doing pretty well. He also didn't take damage from the Immortal that's over there. So as far as that's concerned, it's a tick in the box for the Tau. But the little star, the Destroyer Lord with his special fancy weapon, what's it called, Nick?
Void Reaper.
Void Reaper, pain in the arse weapon. it's pretty much impossible to not wound with his preferred enemy, and with it being a Fleshbane, he is hacking through that Storm Surge, taking off another wound this time, and my luck with my stomps has run out, not doing really any damage. He has just got one wound left, so I need one lucky stomp or a smash attack that manages to find its mark, but I'm finding it particularly difficult, and as I said, losing another wound and being restricting that shooting. So Nick's done well to really, because it probably would be game over by now if the Storm Surge was able to unleash for another couple of turns, but holding him up again is definitely giving Nick a chance to potentially pull something out of the ashes of some really strong turns for the Tau. Maelstrom is very, very close, not a lot in it, and obviously, as I said, 2 Fire Warriors holding the relic is not a lot to be shouted about either. So a hell of a lot to play for. 2 Ys on the roam does make it harder for Nick, and they will definitely cause more trouble this turn, both with one wound left. A hot turn from Nick coming up, and potentially they go down, and things are very, very different. So we'll see how we get on as we potentially go into the last turn of the game, as we go into turn 5 for Tau. Okay, so end of turn 5 for Tau, and almost a perfect turn. It didn't end quite so well. So movement wise, I'm just trying to play for end game now. So just trying to do sort of as many clever, smart things as I can. So basically the 2 White-Eyes, they were making sure they need to clear out this side of the board. So make sure that they are in the deployment zone, and make sure that they are also able to claim corners as well. So we managed to get onto this objective. So we just needed to kill the guy that was there, and obviously the heavy destroyers, really need to focus on them, because they were definitely capable of taking out a White-Eyed easily if my luck ran out. Other than that, the drones are now to need to start using these for blocking and start using for a bit of slowing tactics. So they moved up in the movement phase. Very little point in doing much marking, but we did a bit of marking on the single warrior, and that was more or less all we could kind of mark up this turn. So after marking him with one marker light, the fire warriors then did manage to finish him off, which I was quite pleased about that. Dropped him out of the way so he wasn't lingering in there. The rest of the shooting went very well as well. So the White-Eyed mopped up the heavy destroyers, which is a relief, because those White-Eyes probably should be safe now. I don't think they'll go down unless Nick decides that's his priority, but I think he's too smart for that. I think the White-Eyes probably safe now for the game. This one moved on to make sure that he was claiming that objective, and the other one is going for that corner. Probably not quite claiming it at the moment, but he's kind of on their way there if we go to another turn. Down here, we used the assault move to try and block anything coming towards the relic, even though I'm very aware that there is still a destroyer who potentially will drop those fire warriors and get within range of it, but there's not a lot I can do about that. So we'll just have to hope for a bit of luck there more than anything. The other drones came up here, and I wanted to slow down these destroyers, so we assaulted them, and as both not particularly good in combat, we just kind of drew level, no wounds taken either, and I've held them up. I think that the death marks are probably a little bit far out range wise to make any bid for the objectives, but they will probably still try to drop those fire warriors, but we'll see how we get on. Other than that, the big thing, unfortunately, after you have so much luck, which I have had, can't get any more luck with this Storm Surge. He's getting hacked to pieces by this Destroyer Lord. Another 2 wounds lost, and another Maelstrom point to Nick, which is really not what I needed. The stomp to go down would have been very handy at that point, but that wasn't going to happen. So Nick is hanging in there by hacking away at Storm Surges. It's been his saviour, otherwise Maelstrom would have been well and truly lost. But thankfully, just due to this guy more or less on his own, he's managed to hang in with Maelstrom. Other than that, obviously the Castle Ethereal is still very safe, and these guys are making sure they claim that side of the objective. So very little left on the way of Necrons, but still the ability for Nick to take some objectives and to cause some trouble in this last turn. The Maelstrom points he's probably not going to get, but what he can do is make a nuisance and try and make a claim for that relic to see whether he can pull something out of the bag as we go into Necron turn 5. So, end of turn 5 for Necrons. Nick tried everything he possibly could to try and get round escaping this turn. Very much decided to target the Fire Warriors, which was the right decision to try and get them to drop the relic. Did eventually drop them. So it is out in the open now, and my Fire Warriors and drones are both running, so that does give him the opportunity to grab that if the game continues. As far as other than that, there was really nothing else that happened, because just had the 2 units to unload. In Assault though, quite a lot of action. So this one, I managed to continue to hold them up, so that was proving a really good decision to hold those guys up. Pleased that I did that, because both units fluffing and just holding him in combat. But eventually I rolled that crucial 6 after getting my invons to resist his attacks this turn. I then stomped that Destroyer Lord, who'd been causing me so much pain, out, and have consolidated to there. So this will be, if the game goes on, an extreme mop-up turn. Now the Storm Surge has got an extreme amount of frustration that he's been storing up, been stuck in combat for so long. So yeah, that was what I needed to happen. Nick could have, we worked it out that if things went his way, potentially could have pulled things round. He could have got away with a potential draw, if not a victory, on the relic. But we'll see. It's still there, but we'll see if the game goes on. So Nick, are you going to roll to see whether?
Here we go.
And the game ends. So it ends a victory to Tau. None of us are claiming the primary. I will win the Maelstrom. I'm trying to think, so that'd be 2 extra points for me. So 7, 8, and you'll be what, 6? So it will finish, the Maelstrom will finish 8-6 to me, so very, very close. So I'll win 4 points for that. Neither of us will win the primary, and I will win the 3 bonuses. So I will win 8, 9, 10, yeah, so I will know 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 0, 7, 0 I will win, but extremely, extremely close. I hope you've enjoyed it. Nick has given me a really tough game, made me think about things that I wasn't really prepared for. The Leech Star is extremely dangerous, and I saw it worked very well even when it was rolling badly, so definitely a new factor for me to consider. Really pleased with the slight tweak in the list. I think the Fire Warriors, the extra units, are helpful. I'm very much controlling this side of the board that potentially I wouldn't be with advancing Kroot. So all in all, pretty happy with that. The White-Eyes really got lucky this game. There's no two ways about it. One of them should be dead for sure, potentially both of them. They roll particularly hot, but they also proved why they are so essential in this list. Their manoeuvrability and sheer damage output, as well as survivability, makes them an absolute must for my list. And the Storm Surges again showed how not just awesome in shooting, but also in combat they can prove that they can really hold their own. So incredibly fun game. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Nick. Hope you enjoyed yourself.
You're welcome, I most certainly did. It was a pleasure.
Good stuff. But thanks for watching, guys, and until the next video, please do like, comment and subscribe. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.